Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum with the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
I've heard it 1,000 times. She's a great talker. She should be in sales. But is that really true? Is being a good talker an indicator of a successful salesperson? Or are there other traits you should be looking for? Are you frustrated with your own level of success and not sure if selling is your thing? Well, break out those muff-style headphones so you can really focus as Scott and I discuss Should You Be in Sales and other great ideas on episode 485 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
Wow, it's 85 sessions that we've done together, Bill. That's quite a milestone. It really goes by fast. We never missed a week. Never missed a week here.
That's right. So 85 is about a year and a half, right? A little over a year, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Sweet.
Yeah. So today we're going to be finishing up the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. For those that are playing along at home, this is the final section, Inside Out again. So he kind of ends where he began, which is, I think, one of his models, begin with the end in mind. And that's exactly what he did.
Right.
So he started off this chapter with talking about the growth in the space between the stimulus and response, and that the key to both our happiness and our growth is how we use that space. And this kind of reminds me of the book Man's Search for Meaning with Viktor Frankl. He talks about how we
I've read that for a long time,
or how we react.
Right.
And really talks about that logotherapy of the stimulus and the response therapy. And Covey talks about this is where we really are able to control how we respond and how we deal with different situations that come into our lives. And he shares a very personal story about a conversation that he and his wife had while he was on sabbatical. I mean, can you imagine this? He spent a year in Hawaii, I think, if I remember that correctly.
Rough sabbatical.
Wow.
Choice,
well, geez. Oh, coach, too tough. Take me out of the game. Put me in Hawaii for a week so that I can ride my little motor scooter down to the beach and have a picnic with my wife every day. Lovely. And they got into this really deep conversation. And he talks about the relationship as the conversation, which is another part of this chapter that I really, really like. And he says that in our deep dive in our conversation, we have 2 rules. And the first rule is no probing. So once something is shared, the other person is not probing into it. They're kind of letting the other person share accordingly to what they were willing to share at the time, is how I interpret that. He didn't get into details on that, but I'm interpreting or assuming that. The second rule is when it's too painful, they would quit for the day, which I think is a great rule, because when you really get to a vulnerable spot with somebody, they're very sensitive, and you got to be very careful about what you say and what you don't say at that time. And you're walking in a minefield in a little bit of a situation like that.
I think the thing I was most impressed with his conversation and this process was the commitment to it. So, it was a everyday sort of thing that they would take this time out to do it. And it was very intentional. We have this goal of growing closer to each other, and we're not going to grow closer unless we can be fully honest with each other. And I think that allowed them the freedom to get to a better place in their relationship. And I think guys are very guilty of this, to really just have surface conversations. And when it gets too deep, we make a joke and walk away.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's a very sensitive area, and it needs to be treated with respect when that happens. I love a story about the Frigidaire. Remember this story?
Right.
She's just in love with the Frigidaire, and she's got to drive 30 miles to go shop at a store that has a Frigidaire.
That's all I'm buying. I'm buying Frigidaire, and that's what we buy for our house with no explanation.
Right. And Dr. Stephen Covey had no idea what was going on with this infinity to Frigidaire. And later on in the chapter, his wife shares that her father ran a dealership, and when the dealership was in trouble, Frigidaire would always finance their stock and would be able to float the inventory where they could sell the Frigidaires and not have to pay the manufacturer. And that loyalty to Frigidaire made it possible for her father to support the family.
Right.
And that was amazing infinity and loyalty.
Yeah, I think that's just amazing. And we have these things, sometimes we don't even recognize them. And things that went on in our life. My wife had a situation where her dad called her a cub bear out of love.
Mm.
And she interpreted that as I'm clumsy.
Oh.
And while she's very good at sports, she thought for many years she wasn't, because she saw herself with this vision of this cub bear. So that story always taught me to be very careful about the things I say to my kids, because as an adult, as a parent, as a manager, as a leader, as somebody that's influential with others, our words have a lot more value and a lot more impact sometimes than we know.
Right. And the old saying, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me, is just simply not true.
Right.
They can be very destructive.
Right.
But that's what the chapter is about, is stimulus and response. So we feel that way. What do we do? Do we internalize it? Do we deflect it? It's really up to us to decide how we want to respond or how we want to react. And react is emotional. Response is intellectual. And we have to guard the gate of our lives on what we are willing to accept and what we are willing to tolerate. And that's really up to us. And there are people in our life that, we may not want to tolerate anymore. And we have to guard the gate, and we just can't let them have an influence in who we are.
Right.
And,
right. People do get negative. Our lives change. Our parents can influence us in a bad way because they don't know. When I started my own business, my father-in-law thought I was a flake. He had worked for the same company for 40 years, and that's how you do it. And when I went out and started my own company, I had worked for four other jobs since I'd been married. And then I started my own company, and he was thinking, can't you keep a job?
Yeah.
You know, and he was somewhat negative. And I finally said, Jack, if you want to see your grandchildren, if you want to have us come visit, you better change the way you talk to me about it, because I can't have you trying to destroy what I'm trying to build.
Right. Wow. That had to be a tough conversation.
Yeah. Well, Jack's a pretty open guy, but it's always tough when you talk to your elders.
Yeah.
So
it is.
We deal with that.
That's how you manage conflict, is just kind of talk about it, and you addressed it, and imagine that things changed after that.
Yeah, they did as best he could. So I think it's really important that and again, as you say, we respond to the situation. If we're reacting, we're getting angry, we're letting emotions ride us. It's one of these situations like, remember high school, I couldn't break up with you until I got mad at you, and then I could be mad, and
right.
I could do the things or say the things I wanted to say because I got mad enough to do that. And we can't allow that in business. We can't allow that in the way that we deal with other people, because those reactions then have a consequence that goes further along, whereas a response is handled in a much more adult and mature way.
Yeah. So true. So if you haven't picked up the book, you can go through and listen to past episodes. You can follow along with the chapters that Bill and I talked about. We broke them down into really bite-sized pieces for us to cover on the episode. And I think it was a great book, Bill. I think it was your suggestion. So I'm grateful that you suggested it. I really learned a lot from it.
Well, thank you. I hadn't read it in a long time, and I was glad to go through it. I think I've got to go, I think the second half was easier for me. Kind of the style things, but the first half was much more difficult for me, really planning my life out and setting goals and expectations and prioritizing. And I think that's an exercise you really need to take maybe months at doing till you get it right.
Right. Good workbook to look through every year.
Yep. Excellent. Next week, we're going to have a new book. Well, we actually won't even start the new book, but I'll tease you a little bit. We're going to speak with the authors of the new book, and Scott will tell you who those are at the end of the show.
Yeah. This segment is brought to you by the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program, presented by your host of the Winning and Selling Podcast. Every professional athlete has a coach, someone to assist and advise. Tiger Woods had 4 swing coaches so that he could stay at the top of his game. What would you like to improve or overcome in the next year? Perhaps as a salesperson, you want to be more productive with your prospecting, overcoming objections, or delivering more effective presentations. As a sales manager, you want to create a spark within your sales team with a new message, a refreshed approach to starting new conversations with prospects, or you are looking for market-ready strategies to increase revenue and shorten the sales cycle with your existing team. Or as a business leader, you want to transform the sales culture and your value proposition for the new marketplace. Whatever your reason, this is the perfect time to engage with an experienced sales coach. That is why your hosts of Winning at Selling podcast, Professor Scott Plum and Bill Hellkamp, have developed the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Now you can receive personal coaching from the same sales professionals you enjoy on this podcast. It all starts with a discussion to give us insights into your specific goals, challenges, needs, and motivation. Go to winningatselling.com to contact Bill or Scott about the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Do you believe you deserve better results? Now is the time to invest in yourself, your people, and your customers, and invest in your future.
So our main topic today is, should you be in sales? And Scott and I have both over the years taught and coached hundreds, maybe thousands of salespeople, right, Scott?
I haven't even counted. I don't know that I want to know the number.
I don't want to know the number anymore. So I just wanted to have a conversation around the question, should you be in sales? And there's a few reasons that I thought this would be a good topic. One, I think there's a real misunderstanding in some people's mind about whether they should be in sales or whether they should avoid it. And they make that decision based on misconceptions about what sales are. I've been working the last couple of days with customer service people. And in general, I find that customer service people don't want to be thought of as salespeople. But there's so much crossover between sales and customer service, if it's being handled right, that in many ways, they're the same person. So we have to use words that aren't selling words so that they'll do what they need to do. The second idea is sales is either very lucrative or a very fruitless career. And your makeup and beliefs can help you or hurt you in whether it's lucrative or fruitless. Right. And then finally, if you plan on hiring somebody to sell for your company, you should know what to look for. I don't think a lot of people know what to look for. And I'll give you a hint, Scott, industry experience isn't the answer.
It's not always the answer. I think it has an influence.
Well, it gets you started faster.
Yeah, on onboarding. But there's the commitment and the behavior that goes along with learning anything new. I think that has a big influence in the outcome of it.
Well, what I say to people is, listen, and we're going to talk about kind of these character traits that people have and personality traits, but those are the hardest things to change in people. Those are the hardest things to coach. I'd rather have someone who knew nothing about my industry but had great character than somebody with no character and a font of industry knowledge. So,
yeah, I think in looking at some of the characteristics of a salesperson, I think if you are committed to developing expertise and you're committed to achievement, I think success will follow. Developing expertise is really concentrating on specialized knowledge. This is a chapter out of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And when you really study something and you have that specialized knowledge, you have a niche, you have a sort of a market demand because of the knowledge that you have, and you commit to the behavior of going out and seeking the value in the marketplace based on that knowledge, success is going to follow you. I think there are a lot of smart people that don't do anything too at the same time.
Good attitude bums.
Yeah, they really are.
I know everything I should know, but I won't pick up the phone and call. So I don't know this good. All right, so let's talk about some of these traits, and we can go back and forth on what they are. I tried to put them into personality and character traits, but I really didn't like where things kind of fell on this. So if you don't agree that it's a personality trait or a character trait, that's okay. And you can call me on that and send us a note. And by the way, just about sending notes, we are doing a book drawing for the books. So we are going to have copies of the book that we're going to be giving away for our book club. So contact us at winningatselling.com. Send us a note. Let us know you'd like to be in that. Ask us a question, and you'll be in the book drawing. So anyway, first one I have is curiosity. I think curiosity is key. You need to be the type of person that wonders about things, how they work together, why they work. And I think that makes you a good questioner if you have a curiosity.
Well, I always say that no wonder, no change. Some people go to college, they get a college degree, and they think they've been taught everything that they need to know in life. And is there a surprise ahead?
I got a piece of paper I got it from really capable people too.
And now they go,
college professors really have practiced this trait a lot.
Now I don't have to study anything more because I can just go to work from 8 to 5 and that's it. And
I've talked to people who said, I'm never going to read another book.
Oh God.
other
So
than,
much to learn.
Oh, really?
I mean, but it does start with curiosity.
Yep.
And when you have that curiosity, you have that wonder, then you start creating questions. And when you create questions, you seek knowledge. And when you get the knowledge, you become more interested. It becomes a lot easier when you're interested in the topic that you're studying too.
Right.
And you're finding a relevance within the knowledge that you're learning that gives you a personal fulfillment, and it appeals to a certain motivation that you have of desiring more information and learning more and being able to contemplate and understand more.
You shouldn't be selling something you're not interested in.
Well, yeah, like we said last week. I mean, if you don't buy it, how can you sell it?
Right. Right. And so I think the curiosity also then says, when I go in to talk to the customer, I'm full of wonder about their process and how they do things and why it works and how they make money and how they find customers. And how I love that conversation around that. My favorite part of the sales process is that discovery conversation. I just love doing that, and then taking their ideas and moving it towards something. And so that's my second one, is I think you want to be a good problem solver. You're the type of person who looks for ways to make things better. You can connect different people and products and processes and put things together in new and unique ways that other people maybe didn't see, and that your mind is like that curiosity and then that problem solving going together to create a new thing.
Yeah, I'll add on to that you need to be a good problem finder too. So you need to be able to search for the problems and the opportunities in the marketplace so that you can apply your specialized knowledge. And when you apply what you know, find out, what does that mean to them? How are they applying what you know about their industry or their knowledge or their experience? And then what's the outcome of that? What does that mean to them? How does that impact them? Does it, give them joy? Does it reduce stress? Does it make things run more efficiently? Does it save money? What is the benefit of that? And that's what you're really appealing to, is the emotional outcome of the solution that you provide.
Right. Well, I guess that's what I'd call the curiosity, right?
Yeah.
That problem finder is the curious person. They're trying to find out how these things work together, and then their natural ability to solve problems is, now how can we make it better? So I think those go hand in hand. What are some of the traits that you're looking at?
I really believe that courage is important. Being able to have guts and courage. Don't let fear restrict your future. And I think there's a lot of salespeople that suffer from call reluctance. They suffer from getting outside their comfort zone. They're perfectly content with the outcome and the benefits and the compensation that they're receiving, that there's no reason for them to change because they don't want to give anything up.
Right.
They seem to be somewhat limited on following the hours and kind of doing things that are kind of meeting the minimums, when there's so much more that they can receive when they start investing more in their career. And there's not enough investment in a career with the mindset of having a job. And there are two different things. And I want to ask some salespeople, have you ever thought about opening your own business? And just see the cringe on their face going, oh no, I could never do that. I mean, that would be too much responsibility, when in reality, every salesperson runs their own business.
Yep.
This is my territory. These are the opportunities that I've got in my territory. And guess what? There's somebody else paying the expenses of running this business that I own. And that was my attitude when I was a server at a restaurant. I got these 5 tables over here. The restaurant's buying all the food. They're preparing, they bought the labor to fix all the food. It's my job to sell it. And I want to sell as much as I can in my territory, and everybody else is picking up the expenses, and I'm getting a little something for the effort. It was a tip. I think it was a gratuity.
I think that's a great way to look at it, is that each salesperson is in business for themselves, and they're trying to maximize the profitability and maximize their take home from that.
Right.
And that always, I had a thought today with the group that I was talking to. They said, one of our problems with keeping the price up is that our salespeople are paid on total sales, not on profitability. And they saw that. And I thought that was very, very thoughtful. So people are paid for people do what they're rewarded for.
Yeah.
And so we need to be careful. Okay. I think a good salesperson has to have vision, vision for the future, ways to connect the gaps, make connections, build bridges, put things together, see how things are working together. And they got to see it before most other people can. A good salesperson is a good consultant.
Right.
They can look at all these things and have this vision for the future, and then push and drag the customer sometimes to that future vision.
I think they have to believe that they deserve a better life too, that they're really in control of their destiny. And if you're in sales and you generate a commission, you can generate a lot of revenue for yourself through commission. And it's an endless amount of money that you can make. Now, there's so much time that you have to be able to figure out how to trade your time to be most effective in the sales activity that you have. So there are some limitations on that, but you have to be very discriminating on how you trade your time and go, how am I going to get the most return? How am I going to add the most value? What is the perfect fit for me? And I need to be able to talk to as many people as possible
and
in the marketplace.
Sometimes, to tell you the truth, a sales territory or the product or the commission structure, they're not always made for the salesperson to win. And you've got to be able to analyze that after you've been, hopefully before you hire on. But you should be talking about all these things. How big is the territory? What are the prospects within that territory? What can I do? What's been done there in the past? Why do you think the other person failed and is gone? Or did they succeed and they've been promoted? How can I maximize that? What are the ways if you're not doing that, you're not examining the business. You're buying a business without doing any examination of it. And so again, that's part of that ability to have vision. You need to look at that situation and say, I'm going to be able to win, and I'm going to be able to make the amount of money I need to make in that territory. If not, don't take that job, find something else.
Yeah. I mentioned a little bit of this earlier, but I think you need to be a learner and you need to be curious. And we talked about that, and to want to learn more. I mean, and this goes for folks who have PhDs. I mean, they still want to learn more. And a PhD is a
piled higher and deeper.
Yeah, doctorate in philosophy. If you want to study philosophy, there's no end to that.
Yeah. Well, a PhD is piled higher and deeper. So
yeah,
I'm not a big fan of most colleges, and I think I heard someone say that almost everything you can learn in college you can find on Google now. So
that's probably true.
Do I really need to go out and learn facts when I can learn things? I think Henry Ford said he was in a court case and they were asking him all kinds of facts, and he said, I don't need to know those facts. I pay people to know those facts.
Right. Good line.
I know how to put things together. I know how to make a business work. And so how do you get things done? And that's why I think some of the character traits are important. So another personality trait that I saw, and you've talked about this before, I'm a little softer on it than you, but to not be overly reliant on the acceptance of others. You've got to be able to deal with rejection and continue to move on. You can't be a people pleaser. You've got to be challenging, but at the same time, you have to be engaging and polite and charismatic.
Yeah. Very true. You want to be likable, and you want to be like somebody that others want to be like, but don't strive to be liked by others, because when you seek their approval, you're at their mercy.
And you're going to make bad decisions to try and get that approval.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's not a salesperson. A salesperson is challenging the prospect to think differently and act differently. And that's what the Challenger sale was about when we read that book.
Right. And I get that acceptance because I'm competent. Because when the sale is done, they're in a better place. And it's not that they like me as much as they respect my ability to help them to move forward in that area.
Yeah, exactly.
My last one in my list of what I called personality traits is confidence. And you talked about that believe you deserve a better life, I think is part of confidence. But to know who you are and what you're about, and not be looking for the acceptance of everybody, that you're doing the right thing, or you're moving in the right area, or you're saying things the right way. You've got a style about you and a confidence about you. We talked about that the whole last show, right? How do you project confidence? Well, you've got to have it within you to project it. You can't project a blank slate.
Yeah, so true. I mean, that episode got a lot of feedback on LinkedIn and a lot of downloads. It was amazing.
Yeah,
how popular it was.
All right, what's another one from your list?
I think everything that we're talking about is really focused on a question: are salespeople born or are they made?
Right.
And I really believe that salespeople are made. I think it's a decision.
Well, we're all born at some point.
Yeah, exactly. That's usually the punchline of that joke is, we're all born, because if we're not here, we're not born. And the other thing is that, we need to be able to have that intrinsic motivation to be able to develop our selling skills to achieve the integrity that we have, and how we want to be able to make a contribution to society.
Mm-hmm.
There's another misconception that successful salespeople are extroverts.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not true. They're not extroverts, and they're not introverts. They're ambiverts, which is a role of being who you are based on the timing and the situation that you're in. So if you're in a sales situation, you're a bit of an extrovert. You're talking, you're social, you're asking questions, you're making people feel comfortable, you're asking, follow-up questions to what people say.
Right.
That's an extrovert. An introvert is also going to go home and find that sitting in a chair reading for 3 hours a book is very rewarding for them, just as much as it is being in a social event.
That's
for an
because you don't have any friends.
I know I don't. It's a lot cheaper though too. So
absolutely,
there's some
I think
you've
got to be the right person in the right situation. And so I didn't have this on my list, but I think you have to have a little bit of the chameleon in you. I think you have to be able to reflect a little bit of the ambient situation around you, while at the same time pushing for the situation to be right. So you need to make people comfortable with who they are and who you are. You're not trying to change everybody. So, all right, my first character trait is tenacity. You don't give up easy, and you're always looking for a way to advance the situation. You don't take no as the final answer. You take no as an opportunity. I think I have a mug that says salesmanship begins when the customer says no.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then it's time to get to work. Now, I do believe, though, that if you can keep them from saying no and move them in a positive direction, it's much easier to make the sale. If they've said no, now you've got a barrier to overcome. So, but tenacity is important. Can you get out there and keep going when other people are ready to quit?
Yeah, I think a great, response to situations that are outside of your comfort zone or that you've never done before. And I've talked to people and I've asked them for help on certain projects, and the reply is, I've never done that before. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you very much. Have a good day. Because I don't want to continue to talk about it with you, because you have the attitude of, I've never done that before.
You've made the decision.
Yeah, right. And we got to make a decision. Instead of saying, that's interesting, tell me more.
Right.
If somebody came to me with a situation and said, hey, Scott, we need help doing this, I go, fascinating. Tell me more. And I want to be able to learn about that opportunity, because that's the only way that I learn and become more knowledgeable in something that I'm unfamiliar with. And this is an opportunity that came my way that I didn't even have to pursue.
Right. That's or I might say, I've never done that before. Let's give that a try.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So it's all about what you're thinking about toward the future. You may acknowledge that you haven't done it, but let's give it a shot.
Right. Right.
Next one I have is goal orientation. I think that's important for salespeople. Goals are going to be part of it. And it doesn't always have to be your boss's goal. It can be your own goal.
Right.
But goals push us further than we can go on our own, and we can be encouraged to move to a goal and past a goal. We should be able to get high and excited by exceeding a challenging goal and be motivated by that.
Right. I remember when I was the president of PSA, people would come to the monthly meetings, Professional Sales Association, and I'd be standing at the door and I'd say, thanks for coming. What made you decide to come to the meeting today? Oh, my boss told me to come. Oh, great. Why don't you have some eggs and have a seat? Because mission accomplished. Yeah. You're here. Yeah. I assure you, nothing's going to change when you leave, because your motivation to be here is that your boss told you to be here, not because you're interested and curious in the topic and that you're open-minded and learning something new.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I find quite often when I teach a class, over half the group is there because they were told to be there. Of course. And part of every class I start is trying to help motivate them to find something in it that they can look for themselves, so that they can find that motivation within themselves. Because I agree with you. If they don't change their motivation from, my boss sent me, to, this is interesting, I think I can learn something here, then they might as well just eat the eggs
Right.
Actually, eat the bacon. That's what I go
Yeah,
for.
go for
I
the
go for the
bacon.
bacon. Yeah.
Just have a seat.
Go for the bacon, stay for the speaker. That's my theory.
Right. But nothing is going to change when you leave the room.
Well, I'll have had bacon.
Yeah, well, that's true.
All right. What's one of your beliefs?
One more of mine is to be able to engage in intense conversation, to be able to have that knowledge and to be able to have that confidence that you are in the pursuit of truth of something that is important and valuable to the person that you're talking with. If you don't have that commitment to take on adversity, take on the conflict in the pursuit of truth, it's going to be easy for you to cave in, and you're not going to feel like you really defended your position well, and you may feel like you didn't make the impact that you wanted to, and then you have to deal with the regret of doing that, and that's not good. I mean, regret is really tough to deal with.
Well, I think that's what we learned probably the most from the Challenger sale is that you can't just go in there and be, okay, what do you need? Let me order it for you.
Sure.
You're just not going to be the kind of sales professional you want to be. You have to poke the tiger a little bit. You have to push for the answers that you need. You have to push them to be challenged by the situation they're in. You've got to create that hole a little bit, that frustration for them. And if you're not willing to, as you say, have that intense conversation, you're going to get the $20 order of gloves, and you're not going to get the $2,000 order that you should have gotten when you went in.
Right. Yeah, so true.
All right. Another one that I have individualist, but who can work in a team. So maybe this is your introvert, extrovert, ambivert sort of thing. But you like the freedom of having your own schedule. You don't want to report to a manager. Oh gosh, salespeople hate to report to their manager.
Oh yeah.
But give me the goals and judge me on my performance. Don't look at every day what I'm doing every day. Manage me on the results that I have, not on whether I filled out the form 2132 that you wanted. So I think the more forms we give salespeople, then you might as well give them an inside salesperson to fill out the forms. If you've got a good hunter out there, oh my gosh, quit making them do stupid things.
Right.
And I see that sales managers want to give hunters farmer work to do, and then wonder why they're frustrated and they're not out hunting. So the individuals who likes that freedom of having their own schedule, that's kind of what you talked about with having your own business, right?
Yeah.
I don't mind reporting to a manager once in a while. I don't mind having them involved in what I'm doing, but let's make sure we're managing the whole thing, not just micromanaging my day.
Somebody's got to lead the department. Somebody's got to drive the car. You can't have more than one driver. Somebody leads the department. They're leading individuals and they're managing the process, hopefully. And that's a double skill with a manager leader within a company or within a department.
Yep. And you've got to know, and each of those salespeople needs to be handled in a different way. I think we need to do another session on sales management.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's talk about some in that area, because I think sales managers blow out a lot of their best salespeople by the way they handle them. So that's my list. Anything else that you want to add?
I think my definition of a salesperson is one that has an impact on the experience and an influence in the outcome. And Bill, you talked earlier about customer service. I think customer service is people who have an impact on the experience.
Right.
They don't necessarily influence the outcome. They might fix something, which is, I guess, influencing the outcome, but a salesperson has an impact on the experience and an influence on the outcome. And I work with salespeople and I say, when it comes to your list today of your commitments, tell me what's going to happen, not tell me what happened tomorrow. Really give me a perfect day, deliver that perfect day, and celebrate in the behavior and the activities and the results that you get. You deserve that. And I think a lot of salespeople have to look at a leader that's going to make the salespeople a better leader and not a better follower. Too often I see coaches or speakers or trainers create better followers when they should be creating better leaders. And the leaders are the ones that are going to be able to go out and do it themselves don't always need to follow somebody.
Super. And so none of us said they're a good talker.
Right.
So I think that's true. Go back to our opening. Then we're a good talker. So
yeah,
I do have a resource I'd like to put out there. It'll be on our website. It's a blog article, Selling Success from Accidental to Habitual. So it's just a short one-page article. I think you'd enjoy that.
Yeah. Our quote Golden nugget of the day is indecision is the greatest thief of opportunity by Jim Rohn.
You're one of your favorites.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yep, I think that's very valid. If we don't make a decision, and to not do anything is a decision, and I think that's what we have to remember. To not take on an opportunity is a decision, and to not pick up that phone, to not call somebody, to not go to that networking meeting, those are all decisions we're making that may be losing the opportunity for us.
Yeah.
So true. Jim Rohn's a good one. I know you like him, so
I do.
So as we close up today, we want to remind you to go to winningatselling.com. You can get the information there, the show notes, sign up for our book drawing, and Scott's going to tell you a little bit more about that book.
So next week, no book club, and we're going to be interviewing the authors of our next book, which is titled Sales Jiu-Jitsu, The Secret Black Belt System of Champion Leaders. And we're going to be interviewing the authors, Elliot Baev and Daniel Moskovitz.
Yeah, they're great people. I haven't met Elliot yet, but I've talked to Daniel a number of times, and great guy, and they're providing us with a number of books. So I think you'll enjoy that interview. Go out and get better, one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.